This is a Check This Out exclusive.
Of the 7.2 billion people on Earth, 3 billion have internet access. 2.1 billion are using social media right now.
Check This Out News, coming to you live.
Gary, how are you? I appreciate you joining us. I know you're pressed for time, and I know you're probably moving and grooving. Of course, you're the president of the CTA, and you get the CES popping every year. What can people expect this 2019 CES?
Well, it will be the largest, coolest, greatest, funnest, most significant business event in the world. It is. We get 180,000 of our closest people in the industry to Las Vegas to look at 4,400 different companies displaying in almost 3 million square feet of exhibit space. And they are showing like drones and self-driving cars and robots and artificial intelligence throughout the show in many, many different ways. AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality. We have a separate area for startups, 1,200 companies, each vying for global attention. In fact, Shark Tank even does auditions there. And we have every new type of technology possible. And then there's the whole auto. It's one of the largest auto shows in the world, but it's not cars that can be bought this year. It's the future of cars. It's self-driving, electric, as well as all forms of mobility. And then there's things like we have a whole area focused on smart cities and a new area focused on resilience, dealing with how we can survive climate change or other disruptions to our daily life.
And speaking of that artificial intelligence, I wanted to ask about that. I know it's used on a personalized basis for that personalized user experience with a device or car, and even to predict what someone is seeking, whether it's music or medical care. This ecosystem kind of built around data, confidence has been somewhat eroded by some of the scandals like Facebook, Google, and other guardians of private data. What do you think about that?
There is a trade-off between privacy and the ability of something, devices or whatever, to serve you. So think about if you want clothes that fit, you have to give the tailor your information on your body. And if you want good medical treatment, you have to tell your doctor everything about yourself and trust a little bit. So certainly consumers are rightfully concerned about their privacy. I'm concerned about my privacy, but I also realize it depends on the situation.
He's got a point.
If I'm going through an airport where safety is an issue, I'm willing to give up a lot of information about myself because I want to get on a plane and know that there's no bad guys in there with illegal weapons. So it just all depends on the situation. But sometimes you're willing to give up that information. You don't own all your data all the time. Sure. The airport's one example. Your kid's school might be another. You give up a little bit of privacy for your kid's safety. Or let's say there's a multi-car collision on a highway. Wouldn't it be better if the first responders knew the medical condition of everyone when they get to the scene, rather than, climb through the records and figure out who's alive and who's not, or what the vitals are? If they have that information, they could take care of you better. So everything's a trade-off between health, safety, security, and privacy. And the truth is, to get information and to serve you better, even with custom ads that you like from Google, they need to know stuff about you. And the other thing is, it's free. I was at a global conference sitting with people from Africa and Latin America, and they were shaking their heads as the Europeans were saying, we're going to make everything totally private. They said, you don't get it. This is free stuff for us. We don't care about our privacy. We want free access to information, education. We want to be able to explore the Internet, and we can't afford to pay for it. This is a first world problem. So I think we have to think about these things in the context of bigger situations. And, as long as consumers have clear information, the ability to opt out, that's important. So what we did, we represent all the people who make devices that you wear, like Fitbit and Apple Watches, things like that. We got them together in a room, and they agreed upon a set of principles which said, we're going to deal with this as an industry voluntarily so the government doesn't have to. We're going to make sure that consumers have clear, simple, easy-to-understand language telling them what it is, that we will not, without their permission, specifically sell their information or further transmit it. They can opt out of anything we do, and we're going to be honest and transparent and disclose. And that was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I have not yet heard one complaint about the device manufacturers and the wearables and what people are doing with that information. And people have shown they want to give up their information if there's a greater good or safety involved. People who have Apple Watches are opting into sharing their health information because they feel that it will help other people or even themselves be healthier and safer. So a lot of this is, we'll get used to it. Every time something comes along, there's objections to it. Every technology since the invention of the wheel and fire itself, the printing press, the computer, the car, people oppose that. The phonograph, there was talks about when the record player came out that there was concerns that it was going to be something which would be bad. I mean, even by people who should know better, like John Philip Sousa. He wrote in 1906, when a mother can turn on the phonograph with the same ease that she applies to the electric light, will she croon her baby to slumber with sweet lullabies, or will the infant be put to sleep by machinery? So he thought it would, the phonographs would be the ruining of motherhood. So, you know what? We deal with new technology really well as human beings. We're adaptable. That's what contributes to our survival.
Do you think that these developing nations, as you mentioned, being with leadership from Africa and Latin America, are they more hungry into the developing technology at this point than, say, some of us here stateside?
Absolutely. I think in developing world, there's much more of an interest in technology and appreciation than we have here. We look upon this as a luxury that's nice to have, and they're looking at it as essential to their survival. Because, look at the Internet itself and how they access to it. A lot of developing countries essentially leapfrogged in with wireless technology because they couldn't afford the infrastructure necessary to lay all the broadband with wires the way we have. So they got it. They're getting it through wireless. The phone is much more important in Africa and other areas around the world than it is even in the United States and what we're used to, because it's a lifeline. And it's a lifeline that allows farmers and fishermen to get better prices for what they're selling. It allows them to exchange information, to stay connected with each other. We're spoiled, let's be honest, in this country. No, we're blessed. We're totally blessed and we're spoiled, but the reality is this technology is changing the world and it's making it more equal for everyone. So what even rich people didn't have access to here 20 years ago, now anyone with a phone and an internet connection can have access to. It's fundamentally changed the world. And that, it'll go into healthcare, better treatments, knowledge, education, and soon it'll even be transportation with self-driving cars and things like that, where the cost will be taken out of the car because you're getting rid of a lot of the driving infrastructure, the wheel, all the things the driver has to do. So we're entering a new and better world where people will live longer and better lives. They'll be healthier, and they'll have greater access to education and communication. And those of us, like Europe, everything is about privacy. But the truth is, and there's another part of this, and it's competition. We're in a battle with China over artificial intelligence. In China, they have no privacy. Europe, they have total privacy and very little innovation. In the U.S., we're like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. We're in the middle. We're in the porridge that tastes pretty good. We have a balanced approach between privacy and data, and we're fighting China for a leadership in artificial intelligence. But they have having one language with 1.4 billion people, double the population of Europe and the U.S. put together. They're a million engineers graduating every year. They're in a very good position for the future, and that's what we're fighting for, is the future of our children in terms of how our economies do. So I am, for one, balancing privacy and data against health and competition and all the things necessary for us to survive as a country and for our kids to have better lives.
We want to remind you to please like our Facebook page if you haven't already. When you join, you'll be able to receive weekly updated news and events, live video messages, and most importantly, you'll be able to interact with tons of people just like you. So go on that button on top of your Facebook page and give it a click, or interact with us on Instagram. Without each and every one of you, Tech This Out would not exist. We couldn't do it without you. Make sure to repost and share different things you see on our page. The more you share, the better. Be sure to watch previous shows on our YouTube channel, and please subscribe so that you can be notified when we post new content. We really want to connect and hear from you, so please don't hesitate to message us. And to find us online, please go to Tech This Out America on Facebook, Tech This Out on YouTube, Twitter, and all social media platforms. Get whole scope at techthisoutnews.com. We connect the streets.
Do you see any countries kind of surpassing the U.S. in terms of, the way we might tend to think? I know you mentioned in Europe privacy is paramount, whereas in China they don't have privacy. But China seemed to always be so far along when it came to technological advancement. Do you see us being at a disadvantage, or anybody kind of taking the lead, globally?
Well, the only country we're at a disadvantage to right now, in my view, is China, because China has a centralized government. They have no rights. They have no privacy. They have no liberty. They don't allow their citizens access to the Internet. Their air is very polluted and dirty, and they could do whatever they want for the betterment of the total country. That's not what I would advocate for us. I think our advantages is that we have liberty, we have freedom to access the Internet, freedom of religion, freedom of choice in voting. We have clean air and clean water, and we're committed to all that. But we also, there's downsides for all that approach as well. But I would argue our approach is better as long as our government is aware that when we make these decisions about privacy and things like that, we're in a competitive battle. And Europe is definitely losing it. Europe has very few unicorns. Those are companies with $1 billion valuation. We have the most in the world. China has the second most, and Europe's a distant third. Israel does, is way above its weight because they're really focused on innovation and their own survival. They take business risks, and their military has thrown off a lot of great technology, and plus they're just very entrepreneurial. But this is really a battle not only in the marketplace of innovation between the U.S. and China. This is going to be a battle in the next 20 or 30 years for the hearts and minds of the world as to which system works better, democracy and freedom and liberty and access to information and choice and politics and things like that versus the centralized authoritarian government that monitors and gives everyone a social grade and everyone has to mark in lockstep.
Oh, man, that's deep.
I did an interview today with a Chinese publication, and to be honest with you, all they want to hear is things that agree with their point of view, that how wonderful China is. And since every publication, by definition, is owned by the Chinese government and they're employees of the government, they just don't have a choice. So I would choose our country over any other country, but I would also think this is not something that is our God-given right to just be great. We have to fight for it as our parents and grandparents and others did. I mean, this is, we have a great birthright here because we're citizens here, but it doesn't mean we'll always be the best country in the world.
Switching gears to CES, man, I know you featured a slew of celebrities with big names like Dr. Phil, 50 Cent, Nick Cannon, Snoop Dogg. What's the love affair between hip-hop and tech coming together at CES?
The love affair between hip-hop and tech coming together at CES, I've never gotten that question. But I'll tell you is that if you're good in hip-hop and you're up, you have to be up on where trends are going in technology, what's out there that's new, what's innovation, what's going to capture your eye. We have 4,400 companies showing the coolest, greatest, newest, funnest technology, and that is so exciting, and it's so full of optimism for the future. And you see all sorts of things you'd never be exposed to unless you were there. So I don't know, we have a lot of great sports figures there as well, and politicians, and you name it, the CEOs from around the world. So it's just the excitement of getting a glimpse of the future and where it's going. That's what's exciting about it.
Any surprise attendees that we can expect this year at CES?
I should know that, but if I knew, I'd have to embargo you. So I don't really even know. No, we have a lot of people that come. They come under assumed names. They come all sorts of things. They appear. A lot of companies bring celebrities. And I think we publish for the press a celebrity list that you can have access to through your secret channels because you're accredited press.
No. I know that Snoop, Will.i.am, Eminem, Jay-Z are among the titans of hip-hop investing in tech. Do you have any particular favorite rappers making waves in the tech sector that you're familiar with?
You're mistaking me for someone else who actually pays attention to stuff like that. I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you. They make fun of me here because I don't know anybody, anything, any music. I'm like the worst person ever. I focus on my job and my family. I don't even know sports. I am not cool at all. I am like the definition of uncool. You could erase this whole interview as far as I'm concerned.
No, man, no.
I just blew it. The woman who runs the CES gave me a subscription to Us Magazine. She gives it as a Christmas gift every year because she thinks I'm so not cool and I don't know anybody's name. I don't know any stars. I don't know anything. I'm just not cool. You want to do an interview with someone who knows stuff like that? Karen Chupka is our executive vice president. She runs CES.
All right, shout out to Karen.
She can talk cool, social stuff like that. I don't do that. She even knows football. I mean, she's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So. That is a football team, right?
Right, they are. Women in tech are definitely a pressing issue. Does anybody stand up to you as a trailblazer leading the charge in technology right now?
Well, I'll tell you, we have over 300 women speaking at CES.
Awesome.
We have Ginny Rometty, the CEO of IBM, is our opening keynoter. We have Dr. Sue of AMD, CEO, who is speaking. We have, if the government's still open then, the Secretary of Transportation, Elaine Chao, is speaking. We have a whole bunch of brilliant women speaking at CES. But in terms of who stands out, that's like asking a parent who their favorite children are. We would never say, like, one's a standout or a favorite.
So one last question. I know there's been some real concerns with the trade war between, say, China and the U.S., and I wanted to get your thoughts. President Trump and the trade war that may be sparked.
Sure. I mean, we have always been promoting free trade. We think, and we know that tariffs are taxes paid by consumers. We're very concerned. We're glad there was at least a 90-day hold steady on the 10% tariffs, but that's raising prices for consumers. And while we've had a strong economy, there's no question that we're entering tougher times. You could see it by the stock market. There's a lot of indications, and it's all caused by, frankly, the trade wars. Even today, the White House said, the top economists said, expect a lot of bad news from companies because of tariffs on earnings calls. So over 60 companies have already said it's affecting their business, and that'll continue. And this, combined with the government shutdown, is very unhealthy. And if we're a recession, it'll be called the Trump recession. And it's something which is not good for the economy. He's going to undo all the good work he did by creating an economic environment with new tax laws and loosening some bad rules that he has done for the last 2 years, helping the economy. So we will enter a recession as sure as the sun will go down, and he'll own it. And he responds to the stock market, and we'll see. And he's caused it. And he's hurt China, and because China's hurt, they're buying less U.S. product. There's no question about it. They've slowed down, and the U.S. is slowing down. And that's just the way it is. We heard it from Apple. We'll hear it from other companies. This is, the great 10-year economic expansion is, as there always is, that's the nature of the free market. You have ups and downs. But I think this one will be laid at the feet of the federal government making action decisions that are really harmful. I mean, we knew this. The Great Depression was caused largely by the tariff war of the 1930s that Congress passed. It was the last time, our federal government did something really crazy on tariffs, and this is a time period where our federal government is clearly hurting the American economy. And you have two elephants fighting, China and the U.S., and when elephants fight, the grass gets stampeded and trampled. And right now we have the American and Chinese economy is getting trampled by two government leaders, each stuck in their position.
Again, I know you're tight, Gary, so we thank you kindly for your time and joining us on Tech This Out.
I do. I gotta be out of here. I hope to see you at CES.
See you there, man.
Thanks for covering it. You take care, man. Bye now.
Tech This Out, America.
We connect the streets.